We're getting 2 transmissions in the dirt car. I just wanted to show you this brace here. This is totally new. Hello folks, welcome to Netcruzer RC. We're going to go through a new RC announcement that came out today, at least at the time of recording, by Team Associated. Surprise, they just released new updates to their B6 race cars. They came out with a B6.3 and a B6.3D. D is for the dirt version of the race car, and the standard version is for AstroTurf and carpet. These are 2-wheel drive RC race cars designed for 1/10 scale buggy racing, typically stock spec or mod buggy, depending on how you want to set up your car. Quite interesting news. We did not expect this. I really thought the next RC10B version was going to be a B7. And we also thought that last year when they came up with the B6.2. The B6.2 hasn't been on the market all that long, just over a year. It's only been maybe 6 months or so ago that they came up with the 6.2T and the 6.2 short course version. But this new 6.3 does have changes that we're going to go through, and I'm going to explain them now. But what's changed? And most of it is for tuning and maintenance. So new wide pivot rear aluminum arm mounts. So what they've done is they've taken the rear hinge pins and moved them out to use with 73mm arms and 69mm CVA bones. They have a completely new servo mounting system with aluminum chassis mounts molded into a brace. They have new front and rear tower shock tower covers. They have new spur gear system, and they have a new battery brace that tweaks chassis flex, motor and ESC wire clips, and they've updated the front and rear shock towers. They've updated the chassis a little bit. They've updated the side rails. They've updated the top plate. They've updated the wing mounts, the set screws, the carbon fiber steering arms, and they've added low profile wheel nuts. All the other legacy features that you read here are all the same that were on the 6.2. So that's just a quick overview. We are going to go through some additional pictures and deep dive into this a little bit. So here's their initial press release of the 6.3 carpet version of the car, which does explain most of that same stuff. But the reason why they have changed a few of these things is for durability. They have resolved the bending of wing mounts with a new wing mount system. They've fixed the steering bell crank screw breakage by changing the bell cranks and excessive steering linkage play with some tweaks. They've also added an integrated transponder mount. They've added 4mm shock rod ends. They've added a tie rod battery brace hardware and linkage, which I will show you, and all the other things which I have mentioned. The slipper assembly is changed as well, where they've added new heavy-duty slipper spring assemblies and 11mm Octolock slipper pads with premium LCF pad material. The chassis is still the 3mm extended chassis, but as far as I could tell, the chassis now, the 3mm plus chassis, is now being used on the dirt car as well. So we'll talk into that a little bit in a minute, but here's a brief overview of what's changed with the carpet car. So the transmission, you get one laydown transmission on the carpet car. You get 11mm Octolock pads in the carpet car. The chassis mounting system, the chassis protectors, most of all this stuff is the same between dirt and carpet, and we'll go into that next. So here's the dirt version. Quickly, new features of the dirt version. It gets the same extended arm mounts with the hinge pins moved to the outer side of the chassis. The new servo mounting system's the same. The front and rear shock tower covers have also changed. Now the spur gear and a 19mm Octolock pads, slipper pads for the dirt version, and the tie rod brace, and most of the other stuff is the same as between carpet and dirt. But you are getting 2 transmissions in the dirt car, and you're also getting a couple of other changes, such as you're now getting what they're calling standard length chassis. But when I compared the 2 press releases together, this is the carpet car showing a length with wing of 390mm, and then here's the dirt car, wing and chassis 390mm. So my take on that is that they are now using the same chassis between both the dirt and the carpet variant. That's something that I've heard that a few dirt people were doing, as it makes the car a little bit easier to drive, a little bit tamer, not as twitchy by running a longer chassis. So if you had a 6.2, you could get the carpet chassis, which was 3mm longer than the dirt version. My understanding on what I'm looking at here is that the dirt version chassis is now the same between the 6.3 and the 6.3D. Do not see any sway bars with the 6.3D, but there are with the 6.3. So let's just jump into a couple of the more detailed pictures here. Here's the overview of the chassis view. This is looking at the dirt variant, so there's no sway bars connected. This brace here, this is totally new. This is a standard adjustable turnbuckle, but they've done this to brace between the top of the battery and the rear of the transmission, which will allow you to adjust chassis flex. That's a pretty neat idea, especially if they're going to go with the same chassis between dirt and carpet. This will allow you to tweak the flex differently for the type of surface you're on. I've always been a little bit annoyed with how Team Associated did their battery tray clamping system with the 2 nuts that you have to use a tool to get your battery out. That still remains the same, but at least now when you take the nuts out, now you can just kind of pivot this up. You can hinge this up like a hood and slip your battery out. I still think a lot of manufacturers may want to come up with some kind of toolless design for this battery tray system to get rid of that nut and replace it with something else, either clips or thumb screws. They've also changed where the fan mount goes to protect the fan a little bit more. Here's some information about the new servo tray. Now you can see that it sits on its own tray underneath, which is quite interesting. So it's a fully clamping design where it has its own base aluminum side rails, and then there's a new transponder mount on top of it. There's another view of the new servo mounting system. I'm not sure how this functions in practice to reduce flex. I would think that if it's fully clamped onto your chassis, then there might still be, I'm not sure. I know on-road cars, they try and have a floating servo mount so that the servo torque doesn't affect the chassis. On this, they've gone with the completely opposite scenario where they're now fully clamping it on and recessing it into the chassis. Time will tell to see if people like that or not, but that's quite different. Then going on to the bell crank system, here's what they changed with the steering bell cranks to alleviate stripping out or breaking one of the screws. So that's a change there. Here's the new front axle assembly, front hub assembly. It looks like some of the plastics have changed as well. Now I have heard that Team Associated has gone to a different manufacturer of their molds and their plastics. So it looks like they have their quality has changed a little bit, hopefully for the better. I've heard that that's been in place for a few months now, and any new kits that you get will have the enhanced plastics and build quality. Here is the slipper system of the dirt car, and you can see that it has these locking little braces here which hold that 19mm pad in place. And then if you look at the carpet car, they're there as well, but this is a different spur gear. So they went with 11mm pads on carpet and 19mm pads on dirt. And I'm not sure why they would have went to all that effort of completely changing how this has to be different pads and different mounts and different spur and different plates. That seems like overkill in my opinion, but they must have done the testing and decided that it made a difference. Here's a different exploded view of what that slipper pad assembly looks like. Here's something that I really like that Team Associated has done since the 6.1, I believe. B6 platforms in particular got a front shock tower protector, and now the 6.3 has revised it. They've now recessed the screws a little bit to stop them getting packed with dirt, and it looks like just the mold itself has been revised. And one of the things I've always liked about how they've done this is they have the shock sitting in behind with the protector over the shock tower. It's a very well protected design. If you crash a two-wheel drive buggy, flip it upside down, that's one of the highest wear areas is the top of that shock tower and your shock caps, and they've done a very good job of protecting that. Here's the revised rear wing assembly. So this is a new heavier duty wing assembly which will get tweaked less, as well as now you're getting rear shock tower protector caps as well. So this plastic material here on the carbon fiber is to stop it from splintering and getting damage if you flip upside down and crash. Here's a view of the rear transmission, as well as what their premier feature of the 6.3, which is the pivot has changed of these outer hinge pins. So they're now wider. So the C and D blocks will be extended out to have the pin out wider from the chassis. That's the big change, is that this pin that goes through here sits out a couple of millimeters from where it was before. And then just looking at this picture, just seeing how they've designed this, I saw that these holes were here and I thought that was quite odd. It looks like those are going to be real open holes on the dirt car, unless this is just a prototype and they didn't bother filling them in, because if you want to add a sway, that's where the sways flow through, available to you on the dirt car, but it doesn't come with the sways. This is how it looks with the sway included on the carpet version. Then we have the rear hub assembly, which is the same as the 6.2, adjustable height and depth rear hubs. And they did mention something about it having a captured rear hinge pin, so I don't see it on this side. Probably on this side there is now a nut. And also they made change to saying it's now a nutted bottom of the shock rod end as well, so that's a little bit of enhanced maintenance and durability as well. You're also getting plus 4mm shock rod ends at the bottom of the shock just for added durability, and there's another shot of the protected fan tray. So yeah, lots of changes. I mean, not critical, massive must-have changes if you have a 6.1 or a 6.2, but quite a few parts that you might be interested in picking up if you have a B6 platform and you're looking to get some of the new B6.3 parts. It is technically a new chassis as well, because they did change the way that all of this happens, where now it's got the molded in servo tray. So the chassis is completely different, as well as the side rails. So there's quite a few different parts here. But if you want to get just things like the, actually the shock towers have fully changed as well. Yeah. So the shock towers did change. It is very much a new car, but it's still based on a B6 platform, so they're still calling it a B6. This is the all-new Team Associated B6.3. If you're interested in this, I'll try and put some links in the description where you can get it, although you can't even really get it yet. It's just been announced today at the time I'm recording this. Here's the MSRP and the manufacturer's minimum price. $349.99 USD. One thing to note here is that the Team Associated continues to make mistakes in this graphic. It's saying not included body. You do get a body and a wing included with your B6.3D. I do believe they mentioned that somewhere else, that you do get a body with it. Clear body and wing included. That was in the 6.3 team kit. Let's just make sure that you get it in the dirt car as well. Body designed, clear body and wing included. Yes, so you also get it with the dirt car. Those are the new changes to the Team Associated B6.3. If you're interested in RC racing, follow me, subscribe to Netcruzer, and thank you for watching.